We're gonna keep this train going. We got some
Tick Boy Nation, large and in charge.
Yeah,
those things ain't coming back.
we cried at us like
Beat
up to my nuts.
I got a lot of fertilizer.
What kind of podcast is this?
You want to pet my dog? You love this neighborhood.
Take my money.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
I would love to hear your story.
Like, just me. Oh my God. This isn't gonna go well.
We're in the old donuts. There are a lot of old people sitting in there.
Wait,
Do I take a
How many days do I get
hot
off?
air balloon?
Yeah. It's a change a day in our lives.
Welcome to the PM&A podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the PM&A podcast.
What is going on?
Episode number 36. How's it going?
6.
Are y'all set up, Ernie? You're doing a lot of knob moving around there.
I'm doing some touching.
Okay,
We're good.
so guys, thanks for listening. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Always Bearded Lifestyle, and they want you to take care of your beard. They sell beard grooming products formulated with natural, cert clean certified ingredients. They sell beard oil, beard wax, and the ultimate beard cream, which is pretty rad.
Cream is the best.
Yep.
It is just so
It's pretty good. What else you got, Ernie?
I got Jeremy. From the last podcast, you didn't get me my throw pillow that I asked for Santa Claus and from you, and it just didn't show up.
You mean the PM&A
Nope,
throw pillow?
the PM&A throw pillow
did
did
not.
not show up
No,
in the
I didn't
mail.
get it. I didn't get it for
So I can rectify that for us and for myself and any other listener that didn't get their throw pillow. Just head over to tpublic.com and Google search the PM&A podcast, and you can find our merch, which includes a throw pillow, a cell phone case, a kids onesie, a sticker, everything. But I think they got toques now, but no hats yet. No hats yet. But
maybe in the future we'll get some sweet PMA
you can
podcast
get
hats.
some of our jargon logo, and soon to be I'm going to be throwing up the I didn't get a chance to over the holidays, but I'm going to be throwing up the Shadywood Events logo is going to be on there.
Sweet.
For stuff as well. So
I'm excited.
yeah, man.
And then just so people know, when we have stuff on there, like we're not funding ourselves, we're not paying for our mortgages or anything.
No.
All the money goes right back into the podcast for stuff and better equipment, and it also is going to go into the National Service Dog Association, where they train dogs to help people do basic things like autism, or if you're you suffer from blindness or anything like that. All the money is going to go back into that charity, and maybe it's we're non-profit here, so we're not doing anything for profit.
Yeah, sure.
So we would like to introduce on this podcast Melissa. How's it going?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show tonight.
No problem.
How are you doing?
We're doing pretty good.
Pretty good.
We before you we the first time in our podcast we were recording double podcasts today just to fit in. We really wanted to fit you in today, and I know that you have limited time, so we did one earlier than we have ever done, and then we wanted to get you in. So we just finished up a 2.5 hour podcast before this, but we were really excited to have you on and to chat with you today. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No
I know
problem.
you guys are probably really wiped right now.
No,
not whatsoever.
To be honest,
I am so
to
stoked.
be honest, if people like your this podcast will get posted after that one, but he did most of the talking.
Yeah.
A very
okay.
long-winded story.
It was a lot of us just sitting there looking shocked.
like wow. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you would classify yourself as a very spiritually sensitive person, and I've watched your
Yes.
Instagram for a while, and I thought this was really cool, and you're so well spoken, and I just thought this would be the perfect person to come on and talk about this topic, because it's like people are becoming more and more spiritual in a sense where they're not being tied down by specific religions, and there's more freedoms, and I just feel like you have a really interesting perspective. So
Yeah, well, you guys know that, I'm not sure if you know about this, we're getting back into the age of the Aquarius.
no, I don't know that.
So it's more into free thinking right now, as we get into 2020. And I think a lot of the times people are really interested in what I have to say, but at the same time they're afraid. And I know that similar situations happen to other people, but they just don't speak about it because they're afraid of what people are going to say. Maybe you're schizophrenic, or maybe you have a demon attached to you, or this and that. So
Whoa.
I just don't care. I say what I say, and maybe sometimes I do have to cool it a little bit, but I haven't. I've told my stories, and I think maybe the other side sometimes appreciates it too.
So, if you were to say how this kind of all started, and you kind of felt like this was you interacted with a different plane than most people, when did that kind of start for you?
It started when I was 5.
Wow.
I went to Newfoundland, and I know it sounds like the craziest story, but my pappy, I never met him before, and he died 1 month before I was born. He fell down the stairs and had a heart attack, and then I came around, and we went and visited my mom's family home when I was 6 years old, and I kind of thought I was dreaming because I had this transparent man that I've never met before. He gave me a tour of the house, and I know how crazy that sounds, and he made me a piece of toast with blueberry jam and put me back to bed. And
Wow.
I was 6, so I sort of remember bits and pieces of it, but that was my first paranormal experience, and then it was really, really quiet up until I was in an abusive relationship in my teens. But when I met that person that I was in a relationship with, I had a gut feeling like, stay away, but I'm like, it's all right, I'll just go with it anyway. And I've always had gut feelings when I meet bad people.
Really?
Like, yes, like if I met friends, if I was introduced to certain women, I would get certain feelings, and then find out later on, a couple months later or a couple years later, that friendship was fake and it wasn't genuine. So a lot of the times I don't really listen to my gut, but the last year or so, I would say I was starting to listen to my intuition.
It seems like for most people, we're so busy. Like, our daily lives are so busy, and we busy ourselves, and we don't really pay attention to the kind of like the here and the now, because we're just so busy doing, the random stupid things that we have to do every day, and we're busy ourselves, and we don't really take the time to stop and to like think things through, like a relationship or a conversation, feelings for that matter. So do you find that like you have a different, like, that the perspective you have, you said it even in the last year, you're noticing things more about people just because you're stopping and kind of thinking about those more deeper things?
Yeah, like if I get a strange feeling about someone, I've let it go. I haven't really engaged in any toxic relationships like I used to. So I've kind of just, if I feel like things aren't good for me, I've just let them go, and then I get stronger messages from the other side.
Wow. So can you go into a little bit more detail about, not to say that the abusive relationship, so did you say you had something happen after that where they kind of told you, like, maybe this is a bad situation for you to be in? Is that what you were saying before? Sorry?
Yeah, I've always felt like there was a man around me, like a father figure. And I had a tarot reading about a year and a half ago, and I said, "What's this man around me?" And they said, "It's your spirit guide. It's your guide. It's like an angel guiding you throughout your life. Everyone has one." And I said, "Well, that makes sense, because I've always felt a male's presence around me, and I don't know who it is, and I can't pinpoint it, but maybe it is my grandfather, because I've never met him before."
Can you explain to me? I actually don't know what a tarot reading is. I actually have no idea.
So it's basically a card game that was in Italy, that they just did for entertainment. Oh geez, maybe 1,000 years ago. I could be wrong.
Wow.
I don't want to give inaccurate information, so I'm not too sure myself on the history.
But
of
it originated in Italy.
It originated in Italy as a entertainment game, and then it turned into, every suit has a meaning. Like the emperor would represent the father, or the lovers is obviously like a love relationship, like things like that. Like each card means a certain thing, and when a card is pulled, then you sort of get the feeling of a story that's being told.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
And how many cards are in that deck? Like, how many symbols are there?
I could be wrong, but I think it's 72 or 76, something like that.
Interesting. And they all represent. So So how does a reading, like, is it like you sit down and then they kind of pull the cards for you? Is that how it works?
I'm fairly new at it,
Okay.
but I basically shuffle cards and I think of a question, and whatever pops out, I take the card that pops out when I'm shuffling it, as I'm shuffling it. Everyone reads tarot different. Some people do it in a spread. The spreads would be like a past, present, and future, or whatever you wanted to ask, but that's how I do it. And everyone's taught differently. I don't think there is a right and wrong way of reading tarot. I think it's based on the reader and the interpretation of the reader.
Very interesting. So, with this, so understanding the tarot readings and those kinds of like signs and stuff, I know in your Instagram you have been posting in the last year about like certain clothing. So do you go to like antique shops and you go to like mansion when they sell the house? Is that what it's called? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, so they have estate sales here. I'm originally from Kitchener, so this was all fairly new and exciting to me when I moved to California. They have something called an estate sale, and what it is when someone passes away or when someone is moving, they have a company that comes in and they basically sell everything in your house.
Whoa.
So it is a little, what would you call that, like intrusive?
Yeah.
It isn't. It is intrusive, but it's what they want to sell. So I don't know how to say it. Like if the person is deceased and they give it to the next of kin, then the next of kin would decide what they want to do with all of the deceased items.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time here in the United States, or at least in California where I live, is they hire an estate sale company or an antique store company to come in, and everyone just comes in. And it is a little bit intrusive if you really think about it.
Yeah, we actually had one. Sorry, didn't interrupt you there, but we actually had one for our grandfather's house. They actually brought somebody in because they had some older toys in there. I don't know if you remember this, Jeremy, but they actually had. They found some old Coke bottle toys. That I don't know if you remember. Nana was even saying this. She's like, I used to play with that stupid thing.
No. And
it was these little. It was a truck, and in the back of the truck had little mini Coke bottles in it that were maybe about the size of my index finger, maybe a little bit bigger. And it was all together. And this little toy that my Nana claimed that apparently she would play with, but got yelled at for playing with. I think it went for like $13,000 or $14,000. Like it was an expensive little toy. We actually had they brought an auctioneer out for it.
I didn't know.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. But it is interesting, like when people go to these houses and there's not like a next of kin, but then the stuff goes to people who are collectors.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you like go to these places, do you get a feeling like there's an item here that I'm gonna want, or do you what draws you to certain items, like just like an aesthetic for your own home, or?
I really feel comfort in the 1940s, and I can't describe it because I obviously was born in the 80s, and I wasn't born in the 40s, and I don't really have any personal attachment to the 40s, except I feel so drawn to it. I feel so drawn to the aesthetic and tailoring of the clothing and just the simple life of the 40s and the 50s. I'm a very much traditional woman in 2020, which is odd. I think I believe in marriage and having children and taking care of my husband and taking care of my children, and I'm just very traditional and old school, and I don't know why I'm like that, but I just feel so much comfort in the 40s and 50s, and it's very rare these days, and which is fine. Everyone is entitled to their own thing, but that's something that I feel comfort and safe and secure in.
Yeah.
So like everything out of that era, like even like music wise and that as well, because I can say I'm into like it's funny. Danielle bugs me. She hates the music I put on the Google Home thing, because as soon as I get home I always tell it to put on big band swing music because I love it.
Yeah, I really like that, and even just the dancing. Honestly, when I hear someone cursing, I get anxious, and I just try to find other words to express my anger than to use a cuss word. And I think that sort of brings me back to the 40s and the 50s, and
more traditional, like very like I get that. That's pretty interesting.
They didn't swear at each other; they just fought and shot each other.
They just said, "Oh heck," So before the podcast, we were just having a quick conversation, and you said that we were going to be very cautious, and we're not making laughter about it or joking about it. But you said your friends with you. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I brought out my friends Lucille and Melvin, and I really want to share their story with you guys.
Please, that'd be good.
Lucille and Melvin, they're very they're my friends. So just be nice. Maybe you're going to hear something on your end, or maybe you're going to hear something on my end. Melvin has a deep voice, and Lucille is very soft-spoken. She was a woman that really had her stuff together, and she really cared for her family. And like I said, she was that traditional woman that didn't have a curl out of place out of her hair, and her penmanship was beautiful. So I will tell you a story about Lucille and Melvin's son David, and that this is an estate sale that I went to. So the reason why I go to these estate sales and that I look for vintage clothing, because the 40s and 50s is a really desirable time right now to sell clothing. It's not as prevalent as it was 10 years ago to find. It's very difficult and rare to find exquisite pieces from this era. So I look for estate sales online, and I sell on Etsy. It's been a little dry for me lately, and it is difficult for me to let certain things go, because I know I'll never see something as well craftsmanship and tailored as a certain piece, and it's hard for me. I don't know. It sounds ridiculous, even though I won't wear it. It's hard for me to let go. So, anyways, long story short, our daughter starts school in August here. It's a little bit different than it is back home in Kitchener. They start in September. So she started school in August, and she started kindergarten. So this was new to me, and it was new to her as well, letting our oldest go. My husband is a sergeant on the Los Angeles Police Department, and he has various days that he's off. It's not how you gentlemen would have a certain day scheduled off. He doesn't have. It's just like really random and all over the place.
Yeah, I unfortunately have the same kind of schedule where it's just kind of all over the place. Yeah, so I feel that.
Yeah, but you don't get to carry a gun.
I don't have the responsibility as a sheriff now.
So we have a program, a gym program, where we're very fortunate to have this program. The police department offers us to go to a couple free gyms in our area. And he would normally go to this one gym on the east side of town, so about 10 minutes away. But for some reason, he decided to go on the west side of town that morning. And I just dropped my daughter off from school. Like I said, this kindergarten thing was very new, so I was a little exhausted, taking care of two children. And you don't want to hear my sob story about it. It's not really a sob story, but I just wasn't used to the routine of it.
Yeah.
So I said, he said, do you want to go to the gym with me? And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to bed. So he calls me, and it is 7:45 in the morning. And first, my husband's very sweet to me, and he butters me up. He's like, hey, sweetheart, how are you doing? Da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, my God, I just want 10 more minutes of sleep. And I said, what is it? He goes, well, don't hang up yet. There's an estate sale in this very ritzy area of town, and they probably have some good stuff. So he gave me the address of the estate sale, and I grabbed the baby out of her crib, and I got her all set, and we loaded up in the car, and I went over there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the estate sale hasn't, for some reason, he went that way that morning. It's just very strange. So we're standing in line at the estate sale, and there's a man behind me that seemed like a bit of a gangbanger. And again, I know the culture shock is different because I am from Kitchener.
What's a
So,
gangbanger?
Well, we got gangbangers in Kitchener. Come on.
No, we do not.
Oh no, you don't have gangbangers.
Not the California ones. No, you're right. You're
I want
right.
to hear this.
No, a gangbanger is someone in a gang. Someone like in MS. We have MS-13 gangs out here. My husband worked gangs. We have Bloods and Crips, and they really like to advertise what gang they're in by their tattoos that they wear. Like they'll wear MS-13 tattoo or things like that. So there was a man behind me, and I'm holding my baby, and he says to me, you know, this man was a cop. You know, he has some good shit in there. And I don't know, that sort of alarms me when he said that, because I knew there was something. I knew there was something wrong, because I didn't see the post of this estate sale, and so I didn't know what was in there. So it was packed, guys. Like, there was so many people. It was lined up. It was crowded in there. And they were letting us in one by one, and it finally got to my turn. Well, the first place that I go to when I go to an estate sales is I go to the closets, because I'm looking for clothes that I could flip. Right?
Oh, I see.
So I go to the closets first. So I go upstairs and I go into the master bedroom, and I saw California Correctional Officer uniforms.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, there's something wrong here. They're not supposed to be selling this. I saw prison uniforms. I saw just stuff that the public should have no access to, and stuff only like law enforcement would have. So I'm trying to call my husband. I can't get a hold of him because he's at the gym pumping iron. And I'm still looking around, seeing if I could find anything, and I didn't find too much I wanted. They had some John F. Kennedy stuff and Ronald Reagan, just a lot of collector item things. Not really clothes, just a lot of police uniforms. And people weren't grabbing the police uniforms at the time. They were just sort of getting Ronald Reagan, JF Kennedy, Marilyn Monroe, like collectible stuff.
Do they put tags and stuff on all this stuff to let you know what's for sale, or is it pretty much everything that's in there is for sale?
Everything is a free go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything's for sale. So they put tags on it, and I finally got a hold of my husband, and I said, "Hey, something is wrong here." I said, "There's police uniforms for sale. I don't think they're allowed to sell it."
Wow.
And I said, "There's 2 badges here that are for sale, and there's just a lot of police memorabilia that the public shouldn't have access to."
Yeah.
He goes, "I'll be right over there." He was there lickety split. He was there in, I swear, 5 minutes. I don't even know how he got there so fast. But he showed up right away, and I said, "Listen, pretend we don't know each other because I still want to look in the backyard and see if there's anything." And he said, "No problem. I don't know you." I said, "Fine." So anyways, there was a big box of photographs, and beautiful, beautiful photographs of babies. Lucille had David's baby book, and she had her wedding photos, and she had her sister's wedding photos. Just gorgeous, gorgeous photography that really blew my mind. And it really hurt me. I felt so sad, like someone punched me in the stomach, because they were in a box and their family didn't care about them, and they just left them in a box while everyone else was rummaging through their stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I went up to the lady and I said, "How much for this box?" And she said $5.
$5
for their photos. Yeah, wedding photos and his baby book. And I said to them, I said, you guys are coming home with me. I'm going to adopt you.
Wow.
So I asked about the story. I said, what happened here? He said, well, the man, he has dementia very bad, and he can't remember anything, which is why, you know, he was a retired corrections officer. And he had no children, and his next of kin was a second or third cousin that lived in Tennessee. So I took them home, and my husband called the I guess he knew someone that worked in the California corrections, and the police came right away and they shut down the estate sale.
Oh, they did.
But
Oh, wow.
yeah, I wanted to grab those and buy their pictures, so that's why I asked my husband, just like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
Because they probably wouldn't have sold it to me because I ratted them out, basically.
Because, like, the uniforms, people could, like, wear those uniforms and sneak in or do something, like, illegal,
Like
right?
impersonating,
Oh, totally.
impersonating an officer.
Oh, yeah.
Especially those badges.
Yeah,
like,
someone could knock in your door and say, write up a fake search warrant and
Oh, jeez.
you know, rape someone's wife or rob your home, or
Oh my God.
you don't know, and then they could have someone act as a police officer and pull you over and shoot you in the head. This is a gold mine to, you know,
Jesus.
Hell's Angels and other gang members out there to have police badges and police uniforms. So I think in a way we saved a lot of lives that day. And it's so funny because I wish you guys could see this photo. I think this might be Lucille's sister. She's married to a Marine here in this photograph. And every time I looked at this photo, because I love art and fashion, and like I said, the old fashion in the 1940s, I said, geez, I love your dress. Your dress is so beautiful. Like, I would talk to this picture and say, I love your dress. It's so beautiful. Well, I have to tell you, I went on Etsy. I put in 1940s dress. I found the exact same dress.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish I could show you guys, because I really feel like that was a gift. And it fits me. Like, it's my size and everything. So
So you got it and you purchased it, and it's the exact same dress.
yeah, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have known that if you wouldn't have spent the $5 on those photos.
No, I
Wow.
wouldn't have.
Wow.
Yeah, I just yeah,
That's
I
an
don't know,
amazing-
it's so sad. You see photographs all the time at estate sales, and it makes you wonder, like, was the person really that awful that you had to leave them buried in a box and they're going to be thrown in the garbage?
And all this
I don't
stuff
know.
is just, like, given to the public and not cherished by the family.
Yeah, well, I don't think they had any family,
Oh,
really.
yeah. Right.
So,
That's unfortunate.
And it's not like
It's
the city's
sad.
going to do anything with it, right? Because it has no
So
value to the city,
who
right?
makes money off of that then? If there's
So how it works is, if we were moving, for example, and there was furniture in here, half the estate sale would take a certain percentage, and then they would give you the other percentage.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But in the event there's
Yeah.
no family, the city would own it, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, the city has no
Right.
wouldn't value that at all. They just see it as more
They might just throw it
another
in
house with a bunch
garbage.
of junk, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So-
Well, I have an interesting story that happened today, but
Yeah.
you guys can ask me all you want.
No,
Any
so
kind of questions you want.
so the story of this couple you were explaining. So the name of is it the people that were in the photo, the Marine and the young lady? Is that the two people that you brought? I just was trying to.
So I brought Lucille and Melvin,
Yep.
and I'm not sure if Melvin was in the military. I would assume so, because in his wedding photo, his best man is in the Air Force. So I have an Air Force fella, and I think this is Lucille's sister in the other photo where I got the dress.
Right.
Because she looks like Lucille, and she was married to a Navy. So very common in the 1940s, because I did research on this. Women would borrow suits from each other, like a skirt and a blazer, a white blazer, and the men would dress in their uniform, and they would take a picture, and that would be their wedding photo.
Yeah.
Because the men had to go overseas or back to the war or wherever. They were busy men in the 1940s in the Second World War.
Right.
So it was kind of go get married at the city hall, don't make a big thing out of it, take a photo, and that's how it was.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's very common in those photos. I know my wife's I think her grandfather. So you know the area of like Kitchener, Cambridge, a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch. He was a Pennsylvania Dutch man. He went to war and he got a I forget what they call that. When they find the wives over in Europe and then they bring them over. There's a certain saying, wartime bride.
Wartime bride, yeah.
So that's how he met his wife, which is my wife's grandmother. And in the photo of their marriage, it's just like there was actually 3 people I think got married the exact same day, and all the men were in their uniforms and the women were all in these like borrowed dresses, and they just plain flowers because they didn't have much, and then the men had like these really beautiful uniforms, and that's why they used them as the wedding.
And it was a justice of the peace as well.
I'm not sure who, but that's I'm saying that's very common for those photos. That's why, because like they didn't. That's all they had.
Yeah, that's what I found in that. This is what I found in the box.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so it's really wild.
So sorry, go ahead.
That's a nice story.
Yeah.
That's a nice story, and I invited Lucille and Melvin to be here with us, and they're welcome to be part of my family. Just please respect me and my family, and don't scare my children, and just respect our children, and if they want to protect our house, even better.
So, with knowing people, as in, like your friends and beyond, like have you had any? So you've obviously there's been positives, but has there been any stories that you feel like maybe you shouldn't have purchased certain items, or maybe it was like a little too intense feelings?
Yeah, I think my first experience into this, and I was talking to you about this in the beginning of the spring, is like I said, I was walking in an antique store or antique mall, kind of like how they have at St. Jacobs. They have one like that out here too. And I was looking for something to make a quick buck, something that I could flip. And I was going back home to Kitchener, and my girlfriend Holly was going to a wedding. So she requested something that she wanted. She wanted a pair of gloves. So I said, okay, I'm going to the antique mall. Let me see what I could find. So I walk into this room, and I immediately get this strange feeling, like, again, that sort of punch in the stomach, weird, heavy energy. And it was a room full of vintage clothing. Wow. And I thought, wow, I hit the jackpot. Everything in here is so beautiful. So I ended up picking out a yellow polka dot bikini. And yellow is my favorite color, so I thought, this must be a good thing. But the whole time I was there, it said, something inside of me said, I wouldn't buy this. I would just leave.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to my gut, and I bought it anyway. And I got home, and I'm modeling in it in Snapchat, and it said, that's not yours. And it was this really distraught, scary voice. With an English accent. And I took it off right away, and I was totally naked in the living room. And then my husband got home, and he's like, oh, mommy, what are you doing? And I'm like, listen, you won't believe this. You got to listen to this recording. And I said, what does that say? He goes, well, it sounds like it says that's not yours. He goes, but it's probably radio interference. Because he's a man of fact. He's a police sergeant, and he doesn't... he's a man based on fact.
Right.
And he has to see it. He has to see the evidence, and it has to be in front of his face. He said, there's probably someone messing with you on Snapchat. So I said, no, I have to take this back. I took it back to the antique store. People probably thought I was nuts because I told them the reason why I had to return it. Some people at the antique store said they could hear the voice, and other people said they couldn't. Regardless, they were very kind to me and let me return it. And I was flying home to Kitchener, I believe, 2 days after this happened. So I saged the house. I got very sick that night. I had a headache. I felt like I was going to throw up. And my husband said it's probably because I'm having a panic attack of what happened. Maybe that's true. But I heard of things. I heard of people having psychic attacks. And it basically is the same symptoms of what I've had. Feeling headache, feeling sick. I don't know. It wasn't a good thing. And then another thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention, was as soon as I came home with that bikini, I was angry at my husband for no apparent reason. And he said, "You're kind of acting like a jerk. I'm going to leave." And him and I rarely fight. So it was kind of weird for him to see that side of me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I saged the house, and the polka dot bikini song came on that night on our old time radio, which is a song you never really hear. And I turned it off, and I said, "Get out of my house." And yeah, it was weird. I feel like it's gone, but you got to take the good with the bad. If you do have a gift like this, or I don't know if you want to call it a gift or a curse, you're gonna get. It's kind of like flies are attracted to light, and I'm not saying I am the light, but you're going to get some
interesting things,
some stuff with that too.
Now, you had mentioned, I'm going to ask questions because I'm not familiar. So, when you say you saged the house, I know that there's a thing called white sage, and you burn like incense. What is that? How does that what does that mean to sage a house?
So sage, when you sage the house, you sort of start somewhere and you set your intention. And what I usually do is when I say the Lord's Prayer. So I say the Our Father, and I tell the bad energy to leave the house, and I sort of let it sit in the house for about 45 minutes, and then I open up all the windows and the screens and I let it out. I let all the bad energy out. So, I mean, maybe it is a placebo effect. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it works, and sometimes I don't know if it works. But yeah, the bikini was probably the first thing that happened to me this year.
Wow.
And then I had a hat. Did you hear about the hat?
I follow your story, and I always think it's so interesting. So I know about the hat, but probably our listeners don't, and neither does my brother. So I'm sure he'd love to hear about it.
Definitely would. Definitely would. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to another estate sale. This story's
It's an ongoing theme.
I went to an estate sale. So I went to an estate sale again, hoping to find old clothing or something that I could flip. Are you still there?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
We're still here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So there was 3 estate sales that day, and I thought, I'm going to find something. So I walk into this estate sale, and they had old pictures, kind of like Lucille and Melvin, but they weren't so happy. They were 1800s, very serious Victorian photos, and kind of that eerie Victorian photos. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to buy these photos. They're a little bit creepy. So then I walked into a bedroom, and I was looking for old clothes, and I didn't find one. So I saw this hat, and this hat was about 100 years old. It was like a derby hat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they're called, how men used to wear back in the 1920s, 1930s.
Yep.
I thought, geez, that's a cool hat. I think I can make some money off of that. So I got the hat, and the whole time I was getting the hat, don't get that hat. I tried it on, the hat didn't fit me. What did I do? I got the hat anyway. So I got the hat, and I said, wow, this is such a cool hat. I love this hat. It's so neat. And I really did like it. It was actually a really cool hat.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, what was it? When did this start? Okay. We got 1980s. My husband had 1980s. Do you hear that weird humming?
Yep.
Yeah, maybe that's someone coming in. Okay, just ignore that. So anyways, what was I getting at? We had these walkie-talkies. My husband had these 1980s walkie-talkies. And we were, what was that?
I think that sound could be. I think that sound could be my washing machine. It's like a.
Oh, okay.
It could be my washing machine. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
It still
well,
had 40 minutes left
just-
in its cycle, so I have a feeling that's probably.
Your washing machine sounds like monks.
It does. It really does.
The Gregorian.
And then
chant.
just wait. It plays a song at the end of the cycle.
It does
too.
like a nice Irish jig in the end. Listen, I'm doing my
Alright.
laundry because
I
my
know,
wife,
I know,
she's like
you know.
busy, so I'm helping out.
Separate the whites.
All right, so let's get back to Ben.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had these walkie-talkies, and we just had our earthquake. We had our first earthquake that I experienced on July the 3rd, I believe it was this year. So my husband had the next set of days off, just as it would work on his schedule. And my husband is a little bit older than me, so he grew up in the 80s. And he had these walkie-talkies, and he said, let's try them out for the girls and see if they turn on. Well, it was just when that Stranger Things series was sort of out on Netflix.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was just kidding around, and he said, let's see if we can connect with Elle. And I said, ha ha ha. So he's switching the dials here, and he gets to 11, and it's getting all buzzy. And then I get this strange feeling behind me that someone is watching us from the kitchen.
Oh boy.
I can't see spirits, and I'm so happy I can't see you guys because I would probably freak out.
Yeah.
I can hear, but I can't see. And I also get feelings in certain directions where I feel like someone is around me or near me. So I whip out my camera and I take a picture in that direction. And I think maybe you saw this photo. It looks like a alien figure behind one of our posts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then if you look beneath it, it looks like a demon or a lizard sticking out its tongue to me, like,
Whoa.
you know, kind of like, oh, she saw me.
Yeah. Like.
You know what
Like
I
a
mean?
jest.
And I was, yeah, just like sticking its tongue out, like she saw me, or like a child. But I saw horns around that thing, so I thought, whatever, maybe it's a friggin' alien. Like, I don't know. We just had an earthquake, and then an hour after I took that photo, people in our area, in our valley, were reporting strange things in the sky, like lights in the sky. So I thought, okay, you know, if there's humans, why can't there be aliens? So maybe it's an alien. I don't know. Anyways, let's fast forward to a few months. I saged the house after. I have to tell you guys that I slept wonderful that night.
After you saged it.
Yeah, I slept like a baby that night. So let's fast forward to a couple months later when our daughter is going to kindergarten. And she was giving me a really hard time one morning, being really whiny and being a jerk and whatever. So I come home and I review the footage on our Ring camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm opening the door and I'm walking towards my vehicle, and she's still inside putting on her shoes, and you could hear a voice say, "Get them, get them, get them." But I didn't take it in a bad way, like get them, like I'm gonna get them. I took it like, I need their help. Can you get them for me?
Oh, like as in get them.
Yeah, like get them. So I thought, what the heck is making what's around here that I have that's old? And in the front hall, that's where I had the hat. I kept it where I kept my parrot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I kept it, and then I was like, okay, let me review footage on Snapchat videos that I've saved of me horsing around, modeling my vintage clothing, whatever. And you would hear a man say, "You look fantastic, you look beautiful, you look great." And I was like, okay, this is coming from the hat. So I took the hat outside. I actually gave the hat a beer. I know it sounds nuts. And then when I left the hat outside for a few days because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. I basically have a Harry Potter magic hat. Like,
Yeah,
I
the
don't
sorting
know.
hat. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do with this hat. This is so cool, but there's obviously something else attached to it. So that's when I did the tarot. And like I said, the whole story of it. And with the different messages of the tarot, I got that it was a man in the military. And when he came back from the military, something really bothered him in the military. And I couldn't really pinpoint what it was because I'm so new to tarot. I'm so new to tarot that I didn't really understand everything that I was looking at, but I could tell that he had an addiction to something, and that's where the alcohol came in. And it could be too, because like I said, the hat was 100 years old, and we're here in the States, and it was the time of the Prohibition.
Right.
And so I don't know. I feel like it was a man that had difficulty with his father, and he was in the military, and when he came back, he basically drank himself to death because he saw some things that he couldn't handle, and maybe he had PTSD and didn't know how to deal with it.
Wow.
So I feel like he wore this hat every single day, and that's why there's such a big attachment to this hat. Well, I had a talk with Ben the hat, because the reason why I called him Ben too is I would often hear the word Ben in my house. Whoa. And I didn't know. I have so many old clothes, I don't know where it was coming from. So I thought maybe the hat's name is Ben. Jeez, I don't know. So I called my friend up, Adam, and I've met Adam through estate sales. He has an antique shop here in town. And I gave him a message and I said, Adam, do you want a haunted hat? And he said, sure.
Oh, jeez.
And he said, sure. And we exchanged it for a 1940s blazer that I could wear. But on our way over to Adam's shop, I talked to Ben. And, I should probably mention here that when I brought Ben back into the house, I turned on my recorder because, like I said, I always can't hear what they have to say to the human ear. Something to do with the pitch of the recorder. It picks up different pitches that people can't hear.
I see.
Yeah, so I turned on the recorder and I said to my husband, listen, I'm bringing this hat into the house. I want you to be very respectful. And he's laughing at me, and I said, no, don't laugh. Be very respectful and talk to the hat. And, he thought I was nuts. And he's talking to the hat, and he said, hey, Ben, my name's Matt, and you're welcome into our home. Just respect us and our children, and we're going to put you in the garage. And as he's walking away, setting our boundaries with the hat, you can hear the hat say fantastic twice. I think I put up this recording, and I think you heard it.
I might have, yeah.
Yeah, you heard fantastic, and then when I'm walking towards the garage, you hear, you'll miss me, and I listened to the recording after that. That recording did it for me, because I was like, you know what? I was right. I'm getting this thing out of my house because it obviously has a crush on me, and I don't want to die. I don't want it to kill me because I don't want it to, let me be in their coma or whatever they're in. And I don't want anything to happen to my children and my husband.
Right.
So I'm just, as much as I really love this hat, I don't want any bad juju with it. And I think it's time for the hat to move on. But the hat won't move on if it's in my presence.
Interesting.
So that's when I called my friend Adam, and I said, hey, Adam, I have a haunted hat. And do you want it? And he said, sure. And that's when we did our exchange. And as far as I know, I don't know if Ben is in my house. I hope he's not. But if he is, he hasn't caused any mischief. And
now... Sorry,
yeah.
Wouldn't he move with the object, though, if he's connected to the hat?
Yeah, that's what I would think, too. But I do hear a man. I think I made a recent recording, and I'll send this to you. We got a barn door in one of our rooms here, and I was just making a Snapchat, not saying anything, and you could hear a man say, "That's nice." Like, I don't know who that is, because I just brought photos of my grandfather in our house. I'm not sure if that voice is Melvin, because, you know, Melvin and Lucille are part of our family now, or if it is my grandfather. And I hope it's not Ben, because I don't need Ben's energy in my house.
Wow.
Yeah, so as far as I know, I want Ben to move on, and I had a discussion with Ben. We have a family member that has had problems with drug and alcohol addiction, and I said to him in the car, I had a talk with Ben as we were driving over there, and I said, listen, it doesn't matter what you did in your life. You need to let it go. Like, you can't change anything, just let it go. And I told him the story about. Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You're good. You're
Yeah,
good.
I just seem to be cutting out here.
No, you're okay.
I said we have a family member that has problems with drug and alcohol, and it doesn't matter, that we still love them and we still accept them in our hearts, and that your family, no matter what you did, your family still loves you and you know, has a place for you in their heart, even though you're no longer with us. They still have good memories of you. And I hoped it helped the hat move on. And I think that's all what spirits want, what spirit wants, any spirits. Inevitably, let's face the music, guys, we're all going to die one day.
Yeah.
And just because we're not on earth and we're deceased, doesn't mean that we're bad people. Doesn't mean that we're bad spirits roaming around. And I think that's the attention that they want. They don't want to be feared. They don't want to be thought of just because they're knocking on your door or they have a message to give that they're bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. Sorry, go ahead.
I just think hauntings and paranormal have such a bad taste in people's mouths, and one day we're going to be the hauntings and paranormal. Maybe not. Maybe we're just going to stay asleep. We don't know what's going to happen when we're dead. But why does it have to have such a bad taste?
Yeah, in my some of my favorite podcasts are like haunted houses or like paranormal, and so I'm always interested in it, but I'm always absolutely terrified of it as well. Like, I don't do scary movies. Like, you and I have had a little bit of conversation, but I've had a little bit of like weird things that have happened to me. And I've always felt like, and I've never really said this like to Ernie, I don't know if I've spoken to you about this, but I've always felt like I've also kind of been sensitive to that kind of realm in a weird way. But I haven't had like negative things, but I've just had things that are kind of unexplained, and like it's always happened around like dogs are more intuitive, like they're seeing things and moving around, and there's nothing there, or you know. Probably one of the weirdest things is I used to, so I was in a relationship with a girl years ago, way before my wife, and we went and saw this really scary movie, and I was kind of disturbed by it. I'm like, I don't like scary movies, and I got talked into going to see this movie, and it was so demonic and so scary that I'm like, I couldn't shake it. I couldn't get it away from me. And I remember after the movie, we came home, and I walked into the house, and I just felt sick, and the house like stunk when I walked in the house. Like, it stunk so bad, and I'm like, what is that smell? It smelled like rotten, like it smelled like rotten dead, like just like disgusting. And I said that, I'm like, do you smell that smell? And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, do you not smell that? It smells like something's dead, and it smells like something's like rotting. And so I was like running around, like opened the fridge, looked underneath the sink for like the garbage and stuff, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then she said to me, you know, it could be something from the movie. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, it could have been, like, you said that the movie bothered you, and it could have been something attached to you from the movie and followed you, and it's like bothering you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, I read this book about this. Like, I don't remember her name, but she's a very known, maybe not the word psychic, but like reader, and something Brown or something.
Cynthia Brown.
So I can't remember what her name is.
Oh, Sylvia Brown.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
girl that I was dating read this book and said that sometimes negative spirits can be sensed by their smell. And I couldn't believe that. And so I was like, so I'm a religious person. On the podcast, I've talked about this before. I went to school for theology. I was going to be a pastor. So I just sat down and started praying. I'm like, okay, so I can smell something and she can't smell something. Either I'm having some sort of a brain aneurysm, or there's something. And I had a bad feeling about this movie. I'm not even going to mention the movie because I don't like talking about it. But it was like a very demonic, very dark, and I didn't want to go see it, and I know why now. So I don't. To this day, I don't do scary movies. I can't.
I think I know what movie you're talking about.
Oh, it was bad. It was just like so to this day, I don't do scary movies. I don't interact, and if I'm going to listen to something that is going to be kind of spooky, like one of my favorite podcasts is like Spooky Canada or Haunted Canada or something. They always have interesting historical stories and like a little bit of haunting stuff, but I don't listen to it at night. I don't listen to it before bed because I have that one experience I had where I felt like something followed me and then it tried to, I don't know, it was not right. And then I prayed about it, and then about an hour later I seemed to calm. But that's kind of like, that was one of the first times I kind of noticed that things happen around me, and I notice things more. I have a couple other stories, but I want to hear you first. I don't want to. Yeah, just that kind of thing.
Well, you know what? As open as I am into interacting with the other side, I don't watch scary movies either. I won't go to a scary movie. I won't turn it on. I don't do demonic stuff. Yep. I'm not into it. I do believe in God because my life is so blessed, and from where I have been 10 years ago and how I've grown, and I've asked God for help, and I've asked God for help in my own way with manifestation, and maybe I do a couple little spells here and there, but I don't pray to the devil. And I strongly believe in God and angels, and I know that God's by my side either way. Maybe he doesn't always agree with things I do, but I know he has my back. And I don't watch scary movies, and I don't believe in I don't let any of that bad juju in with me. Maybe I do, but I open it with love and compassion, and I'm obviously getting that respect in return. Sometimes I don't always get it in return, but for the most part, I would say it balances with more good than negative outcomes.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about what you interact with, and like, I don't know, I'm a very positive person. I try to even like our podcast, we tried to start it off with PM&A, positive mental attitude. I have it tattooed on my hand, PM&A, like a constant daily effort just to be positive and to look for the optimism in the world. And there's something to be said about surrounding yourself with positiveness and looking positive. You got to be real. Obviously, you got to be realistic, in the world. It's not always going to be sunshine and lollipops, but in everything I do, I try to stay positive, and I interact in a positive way, because what you interact with can affect you and connect to you and switch things around, and it is not always good. I don't know. Ernie doesn't watch scary movies either, right?
No, I'm not into it. I don't know. I have no draw for it. I think it just puts you in a horrible mindset, and
I don't understand the entertainment value either.
So we have a really good friend that's into it, and he thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah, Jesse.
But no, that's not for me. It's not for me. Yeah. I stick to Will Ferrell. He tends to keep things on a good keel.
Yeah, positive.
I was actually really blown away with his talent a couple weeks ago. I think he was a guest on Saturday Night Live, and I just really saw how much he's shown through with other actors there. So he is.
His improv's hilarious. Yeah. So you're from originally from our area, KW area, but you guys are from California. So you were saying, like, culturally, it's different down there. You were saying earlier, you were laughing that it's nice to hear a couple Canadian accents. You were also saying the area you live in. I think you and I talked about this maybe a couple months ago. You said something about an Indian burial ground around where you live.
Okay, so I live on an Indian burial ground, apparently.
Oh boy.
Well, I have the article. I have the article for proof. Yeah, so So what I've heard from neighbors is that the area where we live on, the subdivision that we live on, while they were building this subdivision, that they found 40,000 bodies dated back to the prehistoric days and of various Native American tribes. And I found the article, and it was saying exactly where we lived, but it wasn't saying on the article exactly where we live. You sort of put the puzzle pieces together to figure it out.
Whoa.
Well, they couldn't sell you the house probably if it was.
Yeah, actually, my neighbor here that's probably going to listen to the podcast, I've befriended a woman beside me here. I know in her house they've had about 6 people move in and out of the house, and I don't know why, and she's not sure why either. So it's kind of like our whole neighborhood, really. And then the house behind it has had multiple neighbors in the past few years too.
Wow.
We haven't moved. My husband is the original owner. There is things that obviously go bump in the night in our house, and I don't know if it's because of what I'm bringing in or if it is the area. I have this wild story. Oh, geez. I don't want to keep you guys forever.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're on your schedule, so you let us know when you're...
Yeah.
Say, listen, guys, we're done.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a few more stories, and then we'll call it a night here.
Okay.
I've always had this strong connection with my husband, and I don't know why, because every other relationship that I was in was sort of like, meh, you know. But when my husband and I were first dating, I had a dream. I'm still okay. Just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'll tell you a few more stories. I had a dream when I first met my husband that I was in his bedroom. Well, he texted me the next morning and told me, I saw you in my bedroom.
Whoa.
So for some reason, I don't know, it's something to do with this house. I guess what would you call that? Remotely teleporting?
Yeah, that's like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, that was my only outer-body experience I've had. And my husband and I have always had a really strong connection with each other like that. But I'll tell you one more story because he wants to take me out for a drink. And I wouldn't mind getting out of the house too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys something that happened today.
We'll have you back on. This is like
I think we're definitely gonna have to do this.
This is gonna be like we're gonna ongoing conversations. This is awesome.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to give me more stuff to work with. I know things will always happen to me, but I'm sort of just airing out my dirty laundry with you guys, and I'm not sure how many more stories I'm going to have, but
that's okay.
This is probably going to be my final one now.
All good. I'll come up with some questions. I'll be ready.
Give me 6 months from now
and
see what I have.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and maybe when I'm in Kitchener, we could all go out for a beer.
Sure, that sounds good.
That'd be cool. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so my parents are in town for a few more days, and I asked them if they could watch our youngest daughter today, so I could go to the thrift store and just see if I could, find something maybe for myself or find something for my Etsy shop that I could flip and potentially make some money off of. So I'm in the car, and I know this sounds crazy, but you've already heard most of my stories. I said to my spirit guys, I said, hey guys, I'm off to the thrift store and I'm looking for something from the 1940s for myself or something that I could possibly flip. So if you could help me out, you guys know I'm on a budget and I don't have a lot of money to work with. But if you see something, sort of guide me that way. Mm-hmm. So I turned on the radio and I was on my merry way. So I'm at the thrift store and I finally see something that I like 1980s to 1940s suit that I'm actually wearing right now with these buttons I really like. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. This is my size and that's what I want. And so I'm at the cash register waiting to pay. And this elderly man walks in. And he said, I have some donations in the car. And talks to the manager. And I was standing right there, and the manager said, "We don't take donations on Fridays." And I thought, well, that's pretty absurd. This is a thrift store, and they're not going to take donations for this old fella here. And something inside of me decided to speak up, which I normally don't. I know I seem really extroverted on social media, but in real life, I'm really quiet and shy and timid. So I spoke up and I said, "Hey, I might be interested in what you have." I said, "I sell vintage clothing." Then I rephrased what I said because I thought maybe that could be offensive to this man. Mm-hmm. I said, "I sell clothing from the era of 1940 to 1960. I'd be interested in seeing what you have and maybe buy something from you." And I said, "That's how I make my money. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 little girls, and that's how I make some pocket money." And he said, "Well, that's a pretty ingenious idea, young lady. Why don't you come on out to my car?" It's like a candy man luring.
Yeah, I was we both looked at each other like, "Oh, here it comes, here it comes."
So he has his truck parked up front, and he said, "I only brought 2 coats today." So he pulls out one coat. It's a men's coat from the 1980s, and I wasn't really that interested in it because I see them at the thrift store all the time. And then he said, This next coat I want to show you was my wife's mother's." And I knew when he said that, it's going to be exquisite. So he pulls out this jacket. It's from the Art Deco area, so it'd be from 1920 to 1930. He said it was her mother's from the Great Depression. Whoa. And it was in pristine condition. It was in pristine condition, and it was my size. And I started to tear up. I know it's so ridiculous. I started to tear up, and I offered him some money, and he said, "Sweetie, I'm 93 years old. I don't want your money. I was going to give it to these people anyway."
Wow.
So it's just strange because I said, "Can you guys help me out? I'm looking for something today," and they came through.
Yeah, and then you acted on that intuition, like you said you don't usually do because you're not as extroverted as you. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. Wow.
And we exchanged numbers, and I actually spoke to him on the phone this evening, and he said I could really use some help, and kind of wanted a friend. He really wanted to meet my husband and play pool with him. And he said, "Honestly, I'm 93. I'm gonna forget about you next week. Give me a call on Monday." And he said, "Give me a call on Monday, and you could come by and look at my wife's clothes." So I'm going to leave you with those stories tonight, guys.
Wow.
And,
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'm glad we booked this so far in advance, and we would love to have you back on to chat with us some more.
Yeah, like I said, give me 6 months, and I'll come up with some more material.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Good night.
See you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, thanks.